Stephanie, and here I am again with you with a tragic case of the loss of a young life in the most shocking way. This is an Australian case, and thanks to very efficient members of the Australian police forces and clever investigators, the crime was solved. Please employ viewer discretion, and this is not for viewers under the age of 18. Thank you. Let's get into this straight away. In New South Wales, Australia, a rural little town called Leeton is considered a cozy little town with lots of people who thought that it was a lovely, peaceful place to raise their families. Where it was a place where everyone kind of knew everyone, and it was considered a very safe little town to live in. The people there did not hear of terrible crimes taking place in this town. This is the story of the young and beautiful drama teacher Stephanie Scot, who lived in this closely knit town of Leeton and worked at the local high school as their English and drama teacher. She was well loved and respected by all those who knew her, and was also engaged to her high school sweetheart, a nice young man by the name of Aaron Leeson Woolley, a local from Leeton. Everything was going well. April 2015. Stephanie was excited as she was getting married that month. It was all organized and the big day was coming. And they were to spend their honeymoon in Tahiti. She had been shopping that Saturday, buying stuff, really excited, getting ready for her honeymoon. Guys, this is heartbreaking. 5th of April dawned, and her wedding was only 6 days away. On this day, a Sunday, the school was closed, but Stephanie went there to prepare lessons for the relief teacher who would be taking her classes while she was on her honeymoon. Her family expected her to come back home after work, but she did not return home. There were no calls to her parents or to her fiancé about where she was. Everyone concerned was getting a bit anxious, as Stephanie always contacted family to inform them if she was getting late or if she was going anywhere else. As more time went on, they knew something was wrong. No trace, no calls, no nothing. Her last form of communication was an email to a bus company she had sent at 12:59 that afternoon regarding the transport of her wedding guests. The agonized family started the harrowing task of searching for Stephanie, who seemed to have simply disappeared off the face of the earth. The family started an extensive search. The police were supported by the locals also. Everyone came together to look for the much-loved missing young teacher. No one had seen her at the school that day. As I told you before, no one expected to be there because it was a holiday, guys. However, there was the relief cleaner who had worked that day at her school, Vincent Stanford, who had claimed not to have seen her there that day. As he was working at his usual cleaning job at the local technical college on Tuesday the 7th, that's 2 days after her disappearance, he had been talking to his co-workers about the weekend. They were all chatting. The topic of the teacher who had simply gone missing in the most mysterious way came up, and they had asked Sanford quite innocently if he had spotted her at the school. Now guys, the vanishing of Stephanie's was so well known and kind of publicized throughout Australia. There was no one practically in New South Wales or anywhere else in Australia that did not talk about this bizarre disappearance of the teacher in broad daylight. And when co-workers asked Stanford if he had seen her, just casually and innocently, he had replied that he hadn't, although they thought that he was smiling in an odd way. The co-workers also spotted Stanford's scratch marks on his face, and they were noticeable and also questionable. They decided to call the police and express their concerns, and Stanford was brought in for questioning on Wednesday the 8th. Of course, he denied having seen her at the school. He had actually said that he didn't even know who Stephanie was. The police did not particularly think that at that time that he was lying about anything, but they wanted to know where he had been on Sunday at the time of Stephanie's disappearance. And he had said that he was at the local grocery store. Guys, remember, 5th April was not just another Sunday. It was Easter Sunday. The police rang the store to verify Stanford's alibi and found he was lying. The store had been closed that day. Guys, lying to the police is not a smart thing at all. He was arrested the following day as he could not give the police an acceptable alibi. They searched his home. My God, guys, they found Stephanie's keys, her red bra, and the lining of the boot of her car in his home. He was arrested and held at the Juni Correctional Center. He ultimately admitted to raping Stephanie on the 5th Sunday and killing her. He had his rape kit with him, he had said. Gosh, guys, his rape kit contained an M-Tech USA knife with a 40-centimeter blade, plastic handcuffs, cleaning products, and Viagra. He had always kept his rape kit at his home, which he shared with his mother. He confessed to his overwhelming urge he felt to rape and kill her, as he had always fancied killing someone. Even as a kid of 7 or 8 years of age, he had fantasized about killing someone. That day, he had seen Stephanie going into the school and had gone back home and collected his rape kit. As the pressure and the tension he was feeling to rape and kill her was extremely overwhelming, and he knew he had to do it. He is known to have said later that he hated people in general, especially he felt that being around people was so annoying and uncomfortable, and that it stressed him out, and that he especially hated teachers and nurses. As he entered the school, Stephanie was still working, and a few minutes later she got up and saw him and said, "I'm leaving now, have a happy Easter." And she almost left the metal gates. Stanford, who had followed her, grabbed her, put his hands on her mouth to stifle her screams, and dragged her to the storeroom, threw her to the ground, and locked the door. He went on physically beating her up. He punched her until she fell unconscious. He raped her. Guys, remember, the school was totally empty that day. He then stabbed her in the neck with his M-Tech knife. As Stephanie lost her life, Stanford had later admitted to feeling a rare feeling of relief from the tension he had been feeling for a long time. Overwhelmed with relief and excitement, he had placed her body in her own car. He cleaned up the storeroom. Stephanie died there alone, guys. Beautiful, vivacious, kind-hearted, popular teacher Stephanie died a dreadfully painful death on the 5th of April 2015 at the hands of this horrendous monster. He then drove to his home. Believe me, guys, he drove Stephanie's red Mazda with her naked body in the boot and parked it behind a shed in his backyard. Now, Stanford had an identical twin, Marcus. He contacted Marcus and asked him to sell Stephanie's rings for $705, which Marcus did. In the early hours of Monday morning, Stanford drove Stephanie's car with her body still inside, about 70 kilometers from Leeton towards Griffith. He went to a familiar place, as guys, he had been to Griffith with his mother and his brother Luke on camping trips. The place was Cockapra National Park, adjoining the Binya State Forest. He discarded her body there and covered it with branches. Guys, he poured petrol and set it all alight. He then had more to do there, guys. He took photos of her burnt remains. His cold confessions stunned even the most experienced officers. The officer in charge of Stephanie's case was Detective Sergeant Timothy Clark. And when he had questioned Stanford about the photos of the burnt body in his phone, Stanford had first said that he had downloaded them from a horror movie. After leaving her burnt remains, he drove her car to another area and dumped it in a field and threw her laptop in a murky canal there. He got home that Monday and was seen greeting his neighbors. Everything seemed very normal. He went to work on Tuesday, as I said before, to the technical college, where his co-workers felt that he was a little bit odd in his behavior, and he was smiling when he was talking about Stephanie, I told you. And the co-workers had also noticed scratches on his face. Stanford was charged with RAPE, assault and murder, and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Leeton man Mark Novel welcomed the sentence. This animal is off everyone's streets, Mr. Novel had said on a Facebook post, I think. In his hour-long sentencing, Judge Hume remarked of how Stanford had stalked other females in Leeton, including a 12-year-old girl. Police discovered Stanford had video footage of this 12-year-old girl and had 1,805 images of her and kept a record of her movements and her family's movements in an exercise book. Sinister, guys. One chilling entry read, "Home alone, 3:40 p.m. Time enough to abduct." There can be no question that the offender is a very disturbed individual, Judge Hume said. The agreed facts concerning the sexual assault and murder of Miss Stephanie Scot make it plain that this case is one of great heinousness, the judge concluded. Guys, before I go, I want to tell you that he had fantasized killing someone from the age of 7, and when he was only 12, at school in the Netherlands, where he was as a child, when the principal had reprimanded him for being on school grounds without permission, he had grabbed her throat with both hands and tried to suffocate her. She had called for help. Thank God he could not kill her. He was sent to an adolescent psychiatric center for behavior problems and violent incidents and was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. A psychologist who had examined Stanford after the murder of Stephanie Scot had said that he showed a complete lack of remorse for his actions and that he seldom thinks about it at all. Stanford had said, "I can hardly remember it. It was so long ago." Totally cold. The bubbly, beautiful young woman, Stephanie Scot, is no more, but her beautiful memory will live on in the hearts of everyone who knew her. Thank you, guys. And if there's a story you would like me to cover, please leave your suggestions in the comments box below. Please press the subscribe button if you like the story and give me a like if you enjoyed this. Thank you. Have a pleasant night. Bye.